So exercise 11, we will be constructing basic cubes and cube composition. Now, cubes, we will be making cubes, okay? So like these cubes, but of a very specific measurement. Now, I will show you later some examples of these models, but you are not going to do the same. So your cubes are of a different size, okay? So what do we need? One cube that is 15 by 15 by 15 centimeter, two cubes 10 by 10 by 10, and four cubes 5 by 5 by 5 centimeter, okay? So these examples are with different measurements, so be careful. Okay. So these three cubes with these measurements, they must be exact, 100% exact. Now, we will learn these stages. So we will follow these stages. We will start with drawing, then cutting, then gluing, then assembly. Each of these stages must be done perfectly. Any mistake you do in these stages, the next stages will have mistakes in them. So the perfection of this model, this is our intention here. How perfectly you can draw, then cut, then glue, then assemble the entire object. Because we will have a lot of cubes, later we will need to also glue them together. Okay? I will explain step by step how to do that. Now, drawing. The first step, using the correct tools and technique. So, we need paper, because we will draw the cube, first of all, flat on a paper. Later we will cut it, fold it, glue it, and so on. So we need papers, but not this small size. You need, this is the A3, at least an A2, which is double the A3, or an A1. So the bigger the sheet, the better. Because you want, when you draw the grid, which I will explain in a minute, you need the sheet to be as big as possible. Because every time you use a small sheet, maybe here you can draw just one cube, okay? But when you have a big sheet, you can draw many cubes on the sheet and cut them in, so it's easier for you, okay? So, but I don't have big sheets, so I will use this as example. Now, first of all, before we start drawing, when we start drawing, we need to draw the grid on this paper. What grid in design, what does this mean? Well, this is the paper, for example, and we need to draw vertical lines and horizontal lines. Now, depending on the measurements. So if we have, for example, to draw a cube that is 10 by 10 by 10 centimeter, the grid will be, so here 10, 10, 10, 10, and from here 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay. If it's the 15, then you will leave 15 centimeter, 15, 15, 15. If it's the 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, okay. So you will draw this grid, vertical, horizontal lines. Any extra space you see here that is left, that is too small to fit in a proper square, you just leave it out, okay? Just like that. You use the space that fits perfectly the measurement. Okay. Now, the paper needs to be ordered correctly. So, how do we start here? Let me put this down so we can see. Okay. You need to follow the steps 100%. You cannot just take the paper and take a ruler and just start drawing, the lines. It will be a disaster. Any millimeter shift you make, later when you make the cube, when you try to put it together, it will be visible, okay? So this is my advice, be very careful. Now, we need to fix the paper on the table, okay? So, you will use your tape. So the paper needs to be put exactly on the edge. If you put it inside, be careful that it is not shifted. Even a very small shift can create problems, okay? So my advice is, if the edge is 90 degrees, just put it exactly on the edge and fit your paper on the table. It needs to have tape on all 4 corners, but I will just put on 2. For me, it's enough. So on all 4 corners, advisable to have tape. Now, you will take the T-square, and first of all, another ruler, because we need to measure. So if we want to make cubes that are 10 by 10 by 10 centimeter, for example, so we need to measure first. We start with this edge, for example, and this edge, okay? And we measure, for example, 10, exactly from the start, okay? 10, you put a small dot here. Then, again at 10, again at 10, again at 10, okay? So if you have a big paper, you just mark the locations. If you have 5, you will mark it 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, then so on, okay? And here the same thing. You start at the edge exactly, and you mark the locations very carefully, because these are millimeters. So when you put the dot with the pencil, remember that later this become a line. So if you put it like 1 millimeter shifted, it's a mistake. So look very carefully and place it in the correct location. Much more slow than what I'm doing. Then you take the T-square. You'll put it exactly on the edge. So, put it exactly on the edge. And now, we need to draw the horizontal and the vertical lines. The horizontal lines, you already know with the T-square. You place on each dot, and you draw. Then you go up on the next one. And then on the next one, okay? Until you are done. So, if you have a big paper, the lines will be tall and long, okay? So that's fine. That's why I told you before, we need the long T-square, okay, to have it. And then, for the vertical lines, you have your T-square, you will put this here, and you will move it this way, okay? So, at this dot, which is at 5, we will put a line up. Then at the next one, carefully a line up. Then continue. Okay? So, what am I doing? I'm drawing the grid. The grid. Any design has a grid that you start with, especially when you want to build something. So, after we finish the grid, what comes next? So, after you've done the grid, actually before any other stage, make sure you've done it correct. So, a quick test. Take a ruler. So, this should be 5 by 5 centimeters. So, I will measure. Is it exactly 5 or is it 4.8? It's very easy to shift, okay? If you have done somewhere a small mistake, if it's 4.8, repeat it. If it's 4.5, definitely. So anything that is not exactly 5, for example, or 10 or 15, you repeat the whole grid if you want a good mark, okay? So after this is done, we have to basically what you need to do on the paper is mark. Just put this up a little bit. Okay, you need to mark where is the location of the square, because this cube is a 3-dimensional cube, but when it's flat on the paper, it will look like this. So, not to make a mistake with the cutting, just with the pencil, okay, mark the areas, okay, that needs to be cut. So this is here, the cutting area. Maybe you can draw it darker or just put dots to remind yourself while cutting, not to make a mistake, okay? Now, on your paper, it will be big, so you will have many cubes. Put as many as possible on the sheet, okay? Don't waste any paper. Let's say you have a sheet like this, and you put here many cubes, and there is this space left. You see this space left. If you can subdivide it again. So for example, this is a 10 centimeter, and you have this space left. You can subdivide it, okay, again. And then here. And they will become what? 5 centimeter Okay, so you can maybe fit here one of the 5 centimeter cubes. So what I mean is when you have a paper, don't waste the paper. If you can, put as many as possible inside. Okay, so this is the cube flat that you need to cut. Inside here, there is folding lines. I will also show you how to fold correctly, how to cut correctly and how to fold. So the first step in our process, the drawing must be correct. Examine it for any mistakes. If everything correct, the next step is to cut. So to cut. How to cut? You will remove the tape, of course, carefully. You need a cutting board. This board you must buy because you will need it for not only this exercise, for many classes in the future. There is a lot of things you need to cut and make and, you know. And you are absolutely not allowed to cut on tables. Even at home, you don't want to damage anything, okay? So, if we need to cut something, we put this on top, and we use a cutter. So you need to buy this also, this tool. And for this one, we need to explain quite a bit. First of all, it's a dangerous tool. This knife is very sharp, so you extend it this way, okay? Now, there is many designs of this. There is some big ones like this. There is even more big ones. There is some thin ones, more smaller. This is the most, I would advise you to buy the most better one of this size, not the thin ones, because some of the thin ones, they're okay, they're fine if you cut paper, but maybe in the future you want to cut cardboard or something more thick, then you need the bigger one and of a good quality. So if you extend the knife and if it's shaky, look, this is not shaking. If it's shaky, it's a bad quality, so make sure it's stable 100%. So, for our exercise, if you want to buy the thin one with the thin knife, thinner, it's fine because we are cutting paper. But it must be of this type. Be careful not to buy the one that looks like a pen. You know, like you hold it and there is a cutter here. This one for the future. And this is for curves and for details. And no, here we need like this or the thinner version. And this object, we don't hold it like a pen. So we don't hold it like this and cut. No, we hold it like this. So here, these fingers are under. This one must be on the top, okay? And this is how you control it. This finger on the top and this at the bottom, they control it so it doesn't shake while you are cutting. It is very important to learn this technique correctly so that anything you cut is accurate. Now, we extend the knife. Be careful not to extend it too much. This, if you press on it wrongly, look, it starts bending. It might jump and into your face and injure you. So be very careful with this. Okay? Extend it only as much as you need. Okay? And hold it, as I said, like this. Now, if I want to start cutting a line, make sure your elbow is on the table, not like this. You cannot cut like this up, and then start cutting. No, okay? Absolutely no. The result will be so ugly and bad quality. You need to put it on the table as much low as possible. These fingers must be on the paper. This one on top, which control this knife to be always at 90 degrees. So, if I cut like this, or even a curve, this has to be 90 degrees. If you start bending it this way and that way while cutting, you are putting extra millimeters from here, extra millimeters, or taking away. So this will be a disaster. These rules must be followed very carefully. Now, I cut without ruler, no matter what, because I can see the line clearly. Using these techniques, I know for sure my cut is perfect. It's not shaking, it's okay, so I cut without ruler. But maybe you need ruler. So you'll put a ruler. It doesn't matter what kind of ruler, okay? So if you want to cut a line, you'll put your ruler exactly on the line. Now, be careful that the ruler is exactly on the line, because sometimes it makes a shadow. These are small details, but you need to learn them from now, because any mistake in design will affect the end result. So when you put a ruler on the paper, it makes a small shadow. So this shadow can sometimes confuse you. That's why I prefer without ruler, but you need some practice for that. So put the ruler exactly on the line. Be careful your fingers. Do you see my fingers are on the ruler? And I'm going to cut now. So this knife can jump again at your fingers. So slowly, carefully, you start. Now, we start like this. We will cut comfortably like this, okay? And when you start, don't press too much or don't make it too light, okay? It needs to be just enough. And then, not high, but low, low, until these fingers touch the paper. And then you will start cutting what? Slowly. Not only slowly, but at the same speed. Like, I cannot cut, for example, like this. Slowly and then fast, and then slowly and then fast. This is a disaster, okay? So we need to cut at the same speed. Now, if something happens and, for example, okay, I'm not comfortable now, my hands start bending, just leave it as it is. Move, for example, this way, and continue cutting. But don't ever twist your hand like this and like this and like this while cutting, okay? This is bad. So, now, you will see, if you pressed enough, you need some practice with it, the paper will be cut. If not, you will see, okay, here I have a problem, then it's going to become a problem. You need to put the ruler back exactly at the line and then continue, okay, to cut through. So, now, so, holding this carefully, correctly is vital. Keeping it at 90 degrees vital, and not twisting your hand. So if you need to twist, you can either do this with the paper or stand up and move into a correct location and continue the cut. Okay, now I will continue I will not cut a complete cube, just to show you the next stages as example. Okay, cut through here. So, let's say we cut our flat cube, okay, this area. And now, notice the dotted lines. These are the folding areas. We need to fold it and then glue it. So, how to do that? Be careful. Be careful. I don't want to see anybody folding like this. Or like this is absolutely wrong. And then making this with your fingers, it becomes black here. The fold line is not clean, or doing this with the fingernails, it's very, very ugly. And anyone who do that, immediately I know it's done like this, okay? So how is the correct way to fold in design? Okay, look, it's already black. So, very bad. So the correct way to fold is to cut it. So, I'm not going to cut it like I cut this, but only halfway through the paper. So, notice what I will do here. I will go through this line and this line, but I did not cut them. Not cut. It is just halfway through. But now look, if I bend, perfect edge. So even when you have to have very, very like details later, like I have this line and another line next to it, for example, I can cut it, and after bending it will become perfect. No doing this and with your fingers, okay? No, absolutely. So after we cut through the lines halfway, we bend it, and then we put this basically together to become like this, and we need to glue. Now, gluing the edges together. How to do that? Please do not use the glue in this way. So do not start putting here glue like this, because at some point, a big blob of glue might come out, and it will be so ugly, okay? Put some glue here, for example, at the side, and you can use another piece of paper, any piece of paper that's flat. You can put it in the glue, and then just on the edge, you don't need a lot, just on the edge, and then put these together, edge by edge, okay? And make sure you don't touch with your fingers the glue, because again, it might become very dark and very ugly, okay? So this Yoo-hoo, it's very fast actually to glue, okay? At the same time, it's very easy. If you find, oh, I made here a small mistake, you can take it back. So it's not a strong glue. At the same time, it puts the papers together really fast, okay? So we will have edges all over this object with cutting it like this, and you need to glue it very, very carefully. Make sure it's edge to edge, and leave it to dry. I don't want to see glue everywhere, fingerprints, anything like this. Consider it not good. It's not beautiful, okay? After we have the cubes, so you need to have all the cubes done, cut, drawn, cut, glued, and then when you finish, so you have all these cubes, 4 cubes 5 by 5, 2 cubes 10 by 10, and 1 15 by 15. Now you need to put them together. So the next stage is putting them together, assembling. So let me bring here some models. These are different measurements, but still the same rules. They follow the same rules. Now, you need to follow very specific rules. What is this? Okay. So here we need to now put all the cubes together. This is called assembling. So we have many parts, and we need to assemble them. So, assembly of model. So, once this is, all the different parts are put together, this is called the model, okay? Now, it can also be called a composition. These words are very important in design, okay? A composition essentially means what? A unit made of many parts. Any design, this is for example a design, okay? Any design is made of many parts put together, any design. So if you look at a poster, for example, it's also made of many parts. It has text, it has photos, it has, so all the different elements put together. This is a 3D model. These are its parts. So, model, composition. Composition is made out of many parts. This is what we will do. Now, here, in this exercise, we are not designing. The goal of this exercise is to learn accuracy, okay? So, the model must be very accurate. It must stay white, okay? So that I can see any mistakes you have made, okay? Anywhere where it's not clean, anywhere you have problems with the measurements, all of this will be visible. And you need to follow the rules that I will say now, okay? So how can you put these together? You are not allowed to put them however you like. You need to follow the rules. So, let's see if I have here. So, the rules of gluing the different, objects, the different cubes together. You're allowed only to glue surface by surface. Like, for example, put these together like this, okay? If I want to glue a small to a bigger cube, for example, you can glue it like this, here, here, or here. or exactly in the middle, but in general, stay away from it, but it's allowed, okay? But you are not allowed to twist like this. This is not allowed. If I see any model like this, I will ask you to repeat everything, because we want to keep it now as simple as possible, okay? As simple as possible for what? Because this model, when you finish it, we will use it for the next exercises. And we will apply this on the next exercises. So you will learn drawing techniques by looking at this model. And if this model is very complicated with twistings, with not accurate gluing, it will be a problem. So you're not allowed to put it twisted. It must be like this, here, 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 here. You are not allowed to put thirds. So this is full. Look, this is a full surface on a full surface, perfect. Half allowed, okay? But not a third. Like I cannot put, for example, let's say this cube on top of this one. This is good, like this. Half is good, but to put it a third, not allowed, okay? So full, half, or quarter, okay? Full, half, quarter, only. Third, or just unknown, how much is this here, not allowed, okay? So full, half, quarter. This is also placed in one of the quarters, okay? Here, 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 here. So if you notice, all of the models are following this rule. It doesn't matter what shapes overall they have. Look at them, they all follow this rule. And also, with this method, I can see whether you cut and draw everything correctly. Because, for example, these two objects are placed here. Their corners must touch perfectly. For example, if this object glued on top of this, so this must be here very smooth. Not, for example, an object coming out a little bit. This is wrong. Okay? So it must be perfect. Everything must be perfect. The edges must be perfect. Everything, cleanliness. So I repeat this many times because while you are doing the steps, if you find that you made a mistake somewhere, repeat it before submission, if you care about the marks, okay? And with the gluing, be careful. Look at these models, they all follow the rule, okay? This, for example, is glued here, half, it's taking half of this. This is allowed, okay? But if it was shifted here a little bit more or a little bit more that way, it's not allowed, okay? So, these are examples. So, I don't really care what final shape you come up with, because the goal with this exercise is to learn, as I said, accuracy. So, whatever shape you come up with, it's fine, as long as it follows the rules and as long as it is perfect. This is what I care about, okay? Just be careful with these knives. Again, I would warn you. Please do not start cutting immediately. Like I draw my grid and immediately I take this knife and I start cutting with it. No, practice first. Like draw a few lines at the side. Practice, because if you never used it before, you don't know how much to press with it. You don't know, maybe your hand is not stable. You need to feel comfortable. It's like when you were a child and in the school, you touched the pen for the first time. You remember how your writing used to be very ugly. One up, one down. The same thing with this tool. It's a new tool. If you've never used it before, practice first and then use it on the real grid. So this is my advice. And be very careful with it, please, because this is dangerous. And in design, you will use this so much. In everything, you will cut with it in the future. So, let me put this back there. If there is anything not clear, ask me. So, just to remind you, these cubes, you must have exactly the same number and what I asked of you, okay? So it's not your choice. We need one of these, we need two of these, and we need four of these, okay? So follow the rules very carefully. If there is anything not clear, ask me.